All right. Oh, yep, we are live. Let's get it. Let's get it. I think we're live.
We're live.
What is up, everybody, and welcome in to the DNVR Nuggets Pregame Show presented by DraftKings Sportsbook, America's top-rated sportsbook app. You see that promo code sitting right over Dev's head. DNVR, use it because it's fitting that it's right over Dev's head, because Dev, this very day, is going to make us all very rich. Very, very rich. Even though his computer is making us all go crazy with his crazy. Do you hear that? Do you hear that sound, Jeff? That humming?
I do hear that sound. Is the computer powered by Steam by any chance, Dev?
I have no idea. I have no idea what's going on here. Like, I really don't.
We are back. In case you can't tell, guys, the NFL draft is today. One of the biggest years in all of sports. And it's especially a big year right now because the rumor of Aaron Rodgers coming to the Denver Broncos is like, I'm telling you, Jeff, I have not felt warm Denver Nuggets feelings since 2015. I have not a single one. And yet here I am wearing a Denver Broncos shirt. Putting on my Broncos gear the last 5 years, it's like that gif of the clown, putting on the clown makeup, like that's me every time I get my Broncos stuff on for Sunday. But here I am proudly repping my Denver Broncos, and they haven't even done anything yet.
That's what rumors of a certain cheese-based quarterback would do. It warms the cockles of the heart, as one would say. Not me.
Well, my cockles are very warm, extremely warm. Dev's cockles not quite as warm today.
No.
We're trying to get him to jump on this Broncos bandwagon. He's not. But you'll get there, Dev. I'm telling you, we're going to win you over.
I promise you, in this entire lifetime, and probably the next one, I will never be a Broncos fan. I will say that it's exciting that the Nuggets have something to be excited about. Hopefully, their hopes are down and they don't get the thing that they want so bad, just because I think that would be so awesome. But even having Aaron Rodgers here, that would be so wild for like the whole state, and also Nuggets to be. Not Nuggets. The Broncos fans and the people will be so happy every single week. I really haven't seen a happy Broncos fan in a few years, so that would be something for them to be excited about. So I'm excited to see them excited.
The sweet thing about this, though, is that it would drive Matt Moore crazy.
Oh, let's do it.
That is exactly why it would be worth it. Yes.
Let's do it.
And I hope Matt's watching this, even though he's not, because, that he's seething right now thinking about this.
Could we get the city of MVPs? McKinnon, he could be an MVP. Jokic, I'm telling people it's a lock. Lock it up. It's over. Voting is over. Voting hours are still open, but we are calling it. I'm like CNN early. I'm calling it. The fight is over. Throw in the towel. So could we have a bunch of MVPs? Maybe.
Yeah, it's not over though until Dev calls it over. So I'm just saying.
Dev, are you calling
he's
it
the
over?
guy that makes it away.
For Nikola Jokic?
Yeah.
It is a wrap.
It is a wrap. He's calling it.
It is done. He's the MVP, Jeff. He's the MVP.
Of course, yes. Well, no, I was waiting for your call though, because I did. That's it. Because now it's officially over for me. Now it's like it has to be him.
We're gonna get to this because I want to know Jeff's opinion. One of the segments on today's show, Jeff, you guys don't know, Jeff Morton, the number one Nuggets historian, knows more about Nuggets history than any person alive. Maybe Andy Feinstein gives you a little bit of a run for your money, but maybe not. But I want to ask you what it would mean for Jokic to win, what it means for the Nuggets. We always think about what would it mean for a champion, but, having an MVP, that's another thing. We're also going to get bets. Dev's going to make us some money, as he has done for like the last 5 games. He's made us some money with DraftKings Sportsbook. First, though, and then we're also going to talk about the drafts. This will be a fun one, Jeff, and I can't wait to get your perspective on this, because as I was going through and looking at every draft night under Tim Connelly, we were really excited for some bad drafts, and we were really bummed out for some great drafts. So it's kind of funny that draft night, instant reaction to draft is always the funniest. But first, let's talk about the game tonight, the actual game. The Toronto Raptors in town, second night of a back-to-back for the Nuggets, taking on the Nuggets. And the Raptors have had the weirdest season of any team I can remember. First of all, this year they're the Tampa Bay Raptors. We, the North, is South Florida. It's a really weird one. They smacked the heck. They've had like only a few good games all year. One of those was against the Nuggets. They absolutely smacked the heck out of them.
Right.
The quick notes that I have here from Brendan Vogt, who is at the arena tonight, of course, Jamal Murray, Monte Morris, Will Barton still out. MPJ is probable. That news should come by. In fact, somebody in the chat, if you see an update there, because we have all hands on deck for the NFL draft tonight, if you guys see it, put it in the chat. We'll see it, and we'll update everybody in real time. But Michael Porter looks like he's in. Everybody from the arena reporting that he was going through the workout routine and looked fine. No hobble or anything like that. We go to the other side, and you look at Boucher, Van Fleet, Watson, Gary Trent Jr., the Nuggets killer, Gary Trent Jr. all out. I'll tell you what, if Gary Trent Jr. was in this game, I would say rest MPJ, because there is a personal beef between MPJ and Gary Trent Jr. And Gary Trent, he gets right up under him. I wouldn't want MPJ if he's going, but he's out. Jeff, how do you feel about the decision to play Michael Porter tonight? If they do go with it, would you rest him?
I would rest him because look, they're going to be playing the Clippers, and Evan McKee is saying MPJ is starting. Well, there we go. So I guess it's moot. But I don't think that there's any benefit for him to play against a team that is not as important to play against as the Clippers, and that's my rationale for it. I would rest him. I would rest Nikola Jokic, to be quite honest with you. But I guess my view of this is different from the players themselves, because I think they're the determining factor on this. But maybe even Michael Malone's like, we want to keep winning these games, and I don't know. It's just. But the Raptors are resting players too, so maybe this is an opportunity to get them less playing time than they normally would.
Dev, what do you think about this? The Raptors and just where they're at right now, because it's kind of weird. They're in the 12th seed, but they're only 2 games out of the play-in. And I just feel like the Raptors, for as bad a season as they had, you get them in a play-in, can they win 2 games? I think so. Do you feel like, how urgent do you feel like they're going to be playing tonight, given that they're resting all these players are out for them?
First off, I think that I've watched the MVP race this year, and resting is a good thing. It actually helps you become an MVP. So this was a night that Nikola Jokic should get off. He should just take the rest of the year off so he can win MVP, because that's just what you're supposed to do. As far as the Raptors, that's just a team. They have Nick Nurse over there, a really good coach. So you don't want to have to prepare for a team like that, for one. For two, they still have, all-stars and really good players in Kyle Lowry, Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet is really good. You have defensive guys, OG Anunoby, Gary Trent's over there now. Like, you have a lot of people that could actually win you a game, and also they come together, but again, they're not winning these games. That's a weird team, like, to gauge, just like how last night the Pelicans was a weird team to gauge. When you look at their team on paper, they should be winning more games than they are.
Totally.
But somehow they're not. And then as far as like them resting players, when you're already out of it and you see that they're resting guys this late and they have a chance, they clearly don't want to make the playoffs this year. Like, they conceded defeat. They don't want to win. So this is a game that I would certainly give Michael Porter Jr. the night off, or at least just play him for like a half or something. There's no reason for him to go all out, especially when you see that he tweaked his ankle last night. And also just the luck of the Nuggets this year. So I wouldn't risk it. I really wouldn't.
What about this one, Jeff, right here from Patrick, our homie from Denver Stiffs days? Blow him out, get redemption, and rest the floor. Do you feel like this is a redemption game? Because every time you play a team from another conference, like, there's no history between Denver and Toronto or Tampa Bay other than Masai Ujiri, but nobody cares about that's on the court. Do you feel like this is a game that the team feels, hey, we got to get revenge for that smackdown we got? Or do you think it's like, what do we care?
If it wasn't an Eastern Conference opponent, I think it would mean more. But I think it's – in fact, wasn't that the game before the trade deadline?
Yes.
And then they got Aaron Gordon the next – So I think the Nuggets have just shifted into a different frame of mind the entire time. Now, it was great to get a question from the creator of PM on the show here, so I appreciate that. But I think that if I'm going to look at this, and it's like, yeah, it would be great to get a blowout, but it is the second night of a back-to-back Denver back-to-back is really hard. So I would say that the chances are they'll be playing deep into the fourth. And, I hope that's not the case. But, who knows?
I think this is a great point by Ice Under Adam's Fridge here, which is that, yes, I don't think Jokic does think traditionally like that. I do. He's even referenced as much about like Serbian toughness, and he wants to play every game because how would they view it? And look, maybe there's like a little bit of, all right, be smart or whatever. But at the same time, I like it. I like that he takes him seriously. I want to get onto the draft, though, because I think this is a fun one. It is NFL draft night. The draft is in basketball, every sport. Well, baseball, maybe not so much, but every sport, other sport, the draft is so exciting because your franchise can turn on a dime. And I thought we'd go back and look at Tim Connelly's draft history. And the first year that you look at is 2014. Forget 2013. That doesn't count. That draft doesn't really count because there was no moves to be made where he got to like actually craft the team. Do you agree with that? First of all, that 2013 is that's almost like the prologue to the Tim Connelly era.
Yeah, no, it was the we're selling a pick because we don't want to pay a first round pick draft, and that was it. And then they ended up trading Rudy Gobert, who Utah picked for them, or they told him to pick, and then they traded that. No, that was the Joffrey Laverne, Eric Green draft.
So we can talk about that then. So Joffrey and Eric Green, take us back there. What did you feel when those picks came through? What were your thoughts, Jeff?
Game of Thrones, first of all, because of the King Joffrey, and second of all, it was like these are just guys who they're picking to stash. It's exactly what I thought, and it turned out that they brought Laverne over midway through that year, I think. So I guess there's that, and Green played in the G League or the D League as it was known back then. And I don't think he came to Denver at all in 13-14. So he didn't get into 14-15. So I mean, it's one of those things where it was a throwaway draft, as you said. It wasn't anything that was going to start to. And in fact, it was kind of one of those. They didn't even have a complete staff doing that draft.
Right.
There was like Tim Connelly, Arturas Karnisovas, and that was pretty much it.
It was because everything happened so quick, like the firing, all like hiring Tim Connelly, and then the draft was right there. I mean, it was all so jumbled up. If you think about that today, can you imagine if Tim Connelly got fired a week before the draft and then you bring in a new guy or whatever? You'd be like, what the heck? You would just know that draft is going to be terrible. Nobody can prepare that quickly, let alone assemble a staff. And it turned out that was right. We go to 2014, and here's what's funny. You move backwards. You don't take McDermott, or you draft McDermott and trade him basically. And look, McDermott, that was not a guy I was clamoring for on the Nuggets. You trade for Gary Harris and Jusuf Nurkic. Dev, do you remember this draft, and do you have any immediate reactions to the first round of 2014?
I'm glad you asked me if I remembered this draft. This was my first day covering the Nuggets. The day that they got drafted.
Should we call this the Dev superstar Dev era, not the Jokic era?
It is.
That was literally my first day. I was at ESPN Denver. Raj Sharon was out of town. And he was like, we need somebody to do it. So I went down there and did the whole Gary Harris thing. And that was like pretty big because Doug McDermott, you weren't clamoring for him, but that was like a big player. Like at the time, everybody else wanted him.
Doug McDermott is the college player every Nuggets fan wants every single year. The white shooter from college that's like, hey.
Yeah, Jimmy Fredette already, went out they wanted the white guy that was going to bring. He was the new white hope. So I definitely remember this this draft, and just actually like how everything was like with the draft and leading around to it, just because I was just right out of college and I was excited to just be a part of something. And that's also where I met Jeff. So it's actually monumental that this all came about.
I don't know if you remember this, Deb. After the draft press conference, Tim Connelly is like straightening his suit. He gets up because he was like a long night, and this is the first real Tim Connelly press conference moment, right? Other than his introduction. So he gets up, he's changing his suit, and we're all done, we're all leaving. And he looks down at everyone, and I swear this is exactly how he does it. And I know Tim well enough to read his emotions now in hindsight. He's looking down at us, he's like, why aren't any of you asking about Jokic? And he was looking at it, and he was like, okay, he was just like the 43rd pick, with the burrito, and we're like, and so I went over and I talked to him a little. I said, well, I ask you a question about Jokic right now, and he goes, "Nah, don't worry about it." But it was like he was kind of perturbed.
Yeah.
So I was like, interesting. That's the first little indication I got. Now I don't think Tim Connelly knew he had Jokic at that point, because no one did. But I think that there was an inkling that he thought that he got a steal, and I think that part he was intrigued about and was kind of wanting to say something about it.
But Tim always says that the day they knew they had something in Jokic was actually his first game after they drafted him. So it was a couple months later, and it was that year that he was the MVP of the Adriatic. But it was like the first game he goes out and has a monster stat line and just dominates. And they're like, yeah, he made the leap. Like if he was drafted after his first game in 2015, he probably would have gone, top 15 or something, but the rest is history. And it is funny because at the time, I wasn't covering full time just yet. I was obviously keeping my eyes on the Nuggets, and I was going back and looking at my tweets, and the draft was, to me, Nurkic and Gary Harris. And then it was like, oh, but Jokic, this or that. And it was like, oh yeah, that's right. They also got a guy. I forgot. They got a guy in the second round. And what's funny is, there were the analytics people loved Jokic. He was their like sleeper pick in that draft. So if you go back and read draft stuff from 2014, all of the analytics guys were like, hey, Jokic might be a guy that's going to go late that should go higher. And they were right on him in that regard. So best pick in Nuggets history. It's one of the best. If he wins the MVP, it might be the single greatest pick in the history of the draft. But if we're being honest, like I'm not kidding. A 41st pick becoming the MVP. What is the thing? Giannis is right now the latest pick ever. He's like 15th pick or whatever. If Jokic wins it, he will have tripled that in terms of how far back he is. So
that was Giannis was that 2013 draft when Anthony Bennett was taken number 1. Is one of the worst drafts I've ever seen in my life. But he made it to like that late, and he's by far the best pick of that draft.
If you go to 2015, it's the single funniest draft, because if you want to talk about excitement, 2014 was all right, a little excitement, mildly exciting, I would say. 2015, peak excitement. We got Emmanuel Mudiay, everybody. It's a new day. They did a whole campaign. His first day in Denver, they have that video of him out on top of the deck on Pepsi Center, looking out over the city like the Lion King. And you're just like, oh man, this is the prophet, the prince that was promised. And you look back in hindsight, 2015 draft, not that exciting, not actually that great. You also got Radicevic, which was like, all right, that didn't pan out.
Oh, the guy that a couple people in the Nuggets organization told me, he's like, oh yeah, no. If Goran Dragic was right-handed, this is them, And I'm like, okay, all right, good. But the interesting thing about that, Adam, what is notable about that particular draft day?
I don't remember.
I have my notable thing about that draft day was Ty Lawson.
Yes. Oh yeah, yes. Is that what you were going to say, Jeff?
Yes.
Is this where you were going?
Yes.
This was the death of the old Nuggets. That was the official death,
right?
And it was a messy one.
And Deb, I mean, I don't know who tweeted it. May have been your boy Harrison, but it was one of those moments that was so surreal. I remember sitting all around this table, and there's this video of Ty with the hookah and talking stuff about Sacramento or getting traded to Sacramento or something like that. And I was like, this is it. This is it for Ty. And that's my memory from that, even though they drafted Emmanuel Mudiay.
Right. Yeah, that was, and I remember, I think we asked Tim Connelly about this. Maybe it was on record during the draft. They said, hey, did you see Ty Lawson today smoking hookah and saying, I'm about to be traded? And he was like, yeah, I saw it. Didn't love it. You can just tell Tim Connelly had like an ulcer. Poor Ty Lawson was trying to get Tim Connelly fired before he ever got started in Denver. And, it was a messy divorce. It was a messy severing of the old Nuggets and the new Nuggets.
Yes.
If we go to 2016, this was another iconic draft for the Nuggets. They get Jamal Murray, obviously, at 7. And it's funny because that was a draft where I think I wanted Justice Winslow in that draft. We knew it wasn't going to happen. There were some guys that, like Buddy Hield, I did not want And when he got taken before Denver, you were kind of like, it was relief because Jamal Murray was an exciting prospect. He could have been a complete bust, but he could have been great like he has turned out to be. But I remember at that draft feeling very good. And then, of course, they got Beasley and Hernan Gomez. And I was like, oh, sweet. Like a bunch of that draft I was pretty hyped on. And I think in hindsight, correctly so.
This was the draft that I feel like, and maybe it was just for me, but I feel like it was with everyone more so that the pre-draft workouts were like major. Like that was the year that everybody went to the pre-draft workouts. There was a lot of guys that are still in the league now that people were like, maybe they should go this way, maybe they should go this way. Right. That's when they thought there was the belief that Jaylen Brown would drop, and people were like, I don't want Jaylen Brown. Then there was all the hype about how much like shooting people were doing in those pre-draft workouts. So the hype around Jaylen Brown making like 93s in a row, and Buddy Hield lighting up, everything. And then Justice Winslow coming in and not even wanting to participate with the Nuggets. And everything just kind of went into place where Jamal Murray like is there, and it's just like a perfect like set in stone. But there were so many unknowns about Jamal Murray because he was a shooting guard in college. So we didn't know like he was going to have to be a point guard, and he talked about being a point guard. And this is like the first time that he kept saying, I'm going to be a point guard in this league. And everyone's like, no, we know what you were at Kentucky. We know like what you're going to be. But he was adamant about being able to play both. And now, now he's playing the point guard position. So I think that was huge at the time.
My only note here is that I remember somebody asked Jamal what he knows about Colorado, and he said, I know there's lots of clouds. So he was misinformed.
Misinformed, yes. It's interesting. My memory of that is the pre-draft workouts like Dev and getting an angry email from Justice Winslow's agent about filming the last part of his workout and him missing about 40 shots.
Every shot, 100% of the shots he took. Do you think if he had a great workout, Denver might have drafted him at 7?
Yeah. I think they liked him, but I don't think they liked him as much as Jamal Murray, of course. So that's not that big a deal. So yeah, but it was always Jamal, and very fortunate that the Kings took Buddy Hield.
Yeah, very fortunate. Thank God. If you look at the next year's draft, 2017, it's also iconic for all the wrong reasons. I mean, there was there was a little bit of a heater going on with Tim Connelly. You kind of looked at it. At this time, we weren't out on Moutier yet. And it's like, hey, man, he's killing the draft every year. And so when they traded Donovan Mitchell to move back and get Trey Lyles and Tyler Lydon, I mean, it's probably the worst mark on Tim Connelly's record overall. That Tyler Lydon pick was bad. But here's what I always say, and this is Eric's, I'm still in D-Line's take. Every draft, you should get one player. Doesn't matter where you take them. The Nuggets got Monte Morris. They also got Vlatko Cancar, which has been like a good end of bench guy. But Monte Morris, if they would have taken him with the 13th pick, you'd be like, yeah, that's about right. He's about a 13th. He's a little bit better than a 13th pick value overall. So in some ways, I look back at that draft and go, what could have been OG Anunoby or, some of these guys. But I also look at it and go, hey, it wasn't that bad when you can factor in you got Monte.
I just remember how bad the vibe was that night. It was a really bad vibe, and it was really weird. The entire press room was really weird. Soon as
Kisla was a pig in shit that night. Do you remember? Like I remember him like laughing as he gets off the press conference with Tim Connelly, laughing, and he goes over to his desk and starts writing the hit piece about what a shitty night it was.
I also remember how Arturas Karnisovas, his press conference after, because this is after Arturas had been promoted to GM, and it was just the weirdest vibe. But you know what? They got Monte Morris for that, and he is a major contributor to this Denver Nuggets team of several playoff teams now. So you know what? A good draft.
2018, this will kind of, this is another big one because they got Michael Porter, and nobody thought about Michael Porter to Denver going into that. We did 30 previews, Jeff, over at Denver Stiffs about like who's going to do what or where's going to be. We never did anything on Michael Porter because it was like he's a top 5, top 7 pick. And I always remember this. Eric asked me, he said, how am I supposed to be feeling about this right now? And I said exactly how you're supposed to be feeling about it, meaning who knows? In hindsight, I honestly think that was the final pick for Denver. That was the final one that if that pick doesn't happen, Denver's a fun team. We have a fun era, but they're never a contender. Michael Porter, that 2018 draft to me was the end of a certain era that when we talk about it, that was the end of the beginning.
So many things just went well for the Nuggets that night. Like leading up to that, just the day before, really, because Michael Porter Jr. was like supposed to be a top 5 pick, and then it comes out like 2 days or a day before that he's like re-injured. And the Nuggets were also in a spot where they were crowded. It was too much going on already. So they had a spot to let a guy just sit and rest for a full year, and a very exciting duo in Jamal Murray and Jokic, and they're like coming on, and they finally made the playoffs, and everybody like has the hype, coming around to them. So that was the pick. That's the pick that actually defines the Nuggets, because like you said, they would have been fun. They would have made the playoffs as the 8th seed and just continued to play hard and stuff like that. But they got a top 5 pick later on in the draft. Like that's luck. That's fate. That's so many things that came full circle for the Nuggets, and for them to be able to pull that off. You didn't even care about the other guys. You don't care about Thomas Welsh. Jared Vanderbilt was fun, but you knew he was a project, but you didn't care because you had Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah, Jeff, do you remember how you felt when Michael Porter was taken?
Yeah, I didn't know what to think because I was worried about why he fell.
Right, of course.
I believe this was the time our buddy Trey Mitchell was with us in the press room, and I was talking to him, and I was like, I don't know what to think about this because this is a guy who has got some serious back trouble, and that's such a huge bad sign. But you know what? The Nuggets at that point, 2018, they were just in the play-in game, the last game of the season, and against the Timberwolves, came that close. And maybe this was just a sign of like, we can afford to do this. If this works out for us, it's really going to work out for us. And it was a great pick and extremely fortunate because I don't know who they would have picked if Porter
I think it was Miles Bridges. I think Miles Bridges was the guy that Malone really liked, and he's good. But I mean, come on, again, Denver is a good team, not a great team if they have Miles Bridges instead of Michael Porter. Michael Porter is a third piece of this puzzle, and so I think it was that. To me, that was the end of it. We got to move on though, guys, because we're running out of time here, and Dev has to make us some money. So I've opened up the DraftKings Sportsbook app here for our final segment. We'll have to get Jeff's thoughts on the MVP a little bit later. It's like I said, it's going to happen, so we have plenty of time for when it actually does happen. We have Jeff in studio now, fully vaccinated Jeff in studio to break down the MVP stuff. But first, Dev, Nuggets are favored by 5 points on the second night of a back-to-back.
Yep, and it started at 4.5. Whatever news they got, maybe just like the Michael Porter Jr. getting into it, was only worth a half a point.
Crazy.
Take that for what you want. I just really feel like the Raptors don't care. Like, I don't think that they care. They don't want to win. They're just out here so they don't get fined. So I really do feel comfortable in the Nuggets winning. 5 is, a little bit high, but I still do think that they win the game. So I would go a money line. I wouldn't go with the actual the line. I'll do a money line so I could just parlay it with something else.
Okay.
That I would see. Then we move over to the props. The popular props that we like are pretty much the same. They have Jokic points down. He's at 25.5 this game. It's usually around 26.5, 27. So they do think that he's going to like scoot back just a bit. Also, they have other people up, so that has to take into account with it as well. PJ Dozier's at 10.5. Aaron Gordon's at 11.5. If you had Aaron Gordon last time, you already know you're frustrated because he got 10 very, very early and then just stopped.
Don't take Aaron Gordon.
Like I take Aaron Gordon under secretly every time.
Wow.
I just do.
We need some locks. What are your locks here tonight?
So locks that I do have. I mean, I'm a little bit afraid of Michael Porter Jr. I've been writing him. He has not let me down yet. Vogt is at the arena. He said that he's moving great. He looks fine. If he's going to play, he's going to play. So let's just ride it again. Michael Porter Jr., 22.5 is the line. He got off to a slow start, but he still got his points last night. I don't think continues to get off to a slow start. So let's take the 22.5 for him.
Okay.
Another one that I like, I think that PJ Dozier finds himself today. I think that this is like where he gets out and tries to score, especially with them having to like rely on guys. OG Anunoby probably is going to try to guard Michael Porter Jr. So if you want to fade him on that, you go with Dozier. I think that he's the player that tries to initiate the offense. 10.5 is a lock for me. My biggest lock of the game, unfortunately, is not a Nuggets guy. My biggest lock of the game is OG Anunoby at over 25 and a half, points, rebounds, and assists. He gets up for Nuggets. We always talk about guys getting up for the guys that spurn them. I really do feel like he thought that he should have been a Nugget, so he really does get up every single time.
He should have been a Nugget.
Last time out, I feel like he really did destroy the Nuggets. He plays up, and he's also been scoring a lot lately. 25 and a half is easy because he's been scoring 20 points like in the last 5 games. So that's my lock of the game.
Okay. I don't know. I feel that those aren't too exciting tonight. What do you think about a Jokic triple-double? I could see tonight being one of those like 18, 10, and 10 games.
Yeah, totally.
They don't have a center also. They don't have Boucher's out for this one. Like, I don't know who's going to be able to guard him. I really don't. I don't even know who their center is with him out. So this definitely could be a Jokic night, an easy Jokic night.
All righty.
Is Bruno Caboclo still on the Raptors?
Man, he was one of the worst players ever, man.
Hasn't he been 2 years away from being 2 years away for like 2 years now?
There was a lot of buzz around him at Jokic's first summer league. I believe that was the summer league where there was some real Caboclo buzz, but no, he has sadly moved on. He's the next Giannis. Remember, he was the next Giannis, but that never panned out. Everybody, thank you so much for following us for this pregame show on draft night. You guys are the real ones. Over 300 people watching this one. We're going to be back in the postgame lounge after this show. We'll see everybody then. Audio. Oh, let me see. How do I get out of here? I'm doing everything tonight. So you hit that button. You let it run for a second. It says Casual Friday, even though it's Thursday, and then we're out of here.